Hey, it's Jasper, and today we're talking about Bluetooth speakers. You can see I have quite the impressive selection of speakers here, and I've been using these over the last few weeks to decide which ones I'd keep and which ones I'd pass on. And ultimately, I've made this really hard on myself because these are all some of the most popular speakers available today, and there's really not a bad speaker on this table. There just are some that I happen to like more than others, so we're gonna be getting into that. And it's obvious, but I figured it has to be stated, there's no one right answer here. Some people are gonna value different things than others. Some are gonna really care about sound quality, others are gonna care about portability, waterproof, does it float, does it weigh a ton? There's a bunch of different factors to consider, so I'm gonna be talking about that in the video as well. Before we get into this, a few quick things. First, I paid for all these speakers with my own money. Yes, I'm a little crazy, but that also means that I don't have a horse in this race. There's no sponsorship, so basically whatever I think sounds the best or makes the most sense is what I'm gonna say. Obviously, it's just my opinion, so do with that what you will. But on that note, yes, there are affiliate links in the description below. So if you use those links to make a purchase, I get a small commission at no cost to you. Just wanna be super transparent about that. And ultimately, that's how I'm hoping to make this channel work. We'll see how it all pans out. It's just a big experiment. And then finally, there's no listening test in this video. My personal experience is listening tests often lead to more confusion than clarity because by the time a microphone's picked up the sound, piped it to YouTube, it's gotten compressed, it gets played back, it usually isn't an accurate representation of how the speakers actually vary. So I'm skipping all that. I'm just gonna give you my overall impressions and kind of talk about what I like and what I don't like. All right, enough of all that. Let's get into it. The first category I want to talk about is this ultra portable category that you can see here. And the first one let's talk about is the JBL Clip speaker. So I have the Clip 5, the Clip 4, and the Clip 3. First, the Clip 3 is out. Doesn't have USB-C. It's got an old version of Bluetooth. It's only 3 watts. Yes, it gets quite cheap, but I just can't really recommend it at this time. But the 4 and the 5 are both very compelling. The 5 has 7 watts, the 4 has 5 watts, the 5 has 12 hours of battery life, the 4 has 10 hours of battery life, and that's like projected battery life based on moderate speaker volume. If you turn the volume up more, you're gonna get a lot worse battery life than that, and that applies to basically all these speakers. But I can say from personal experience, you wanna take this thing on a hike or something like that, it'll last all day and you'll be good. They both have USB-C, they're both waterproof, they both float. The other difference is the Clip 5 connects to the JBL Portable app, which allows you to then use the EQ functionality, so you can tune its sound to your preferences, as well as then you can pair it to another JBL Clip 5, and then you get a stereo pair, or you can use Auracast and connect it to other compatible JBL speakers, and then they all play synchronized, which is a pretty cool feature. If you don't need all that, just get the Clip 4. It's a great speaker as well, and it sounds quite good. I can't recommend these two just because I don't think they have the value to performance that I think makes sense. The one that I can recommend though is this one. So this is the Soundcore Select 4 Go. It's a very new speaker, and the most impressive thing about it is its price. It costs $25 and it sometimes goes on sale, and it works with the Soundcore app, which means you get a full EQ, you can make a stereo pair, and it's just a pretty solid all-around speaker. It sounds good for what it is. It's a very small speaker, so you can't expect too much out of it, but I definitely think it holds its own versus some of these speakers. And for 50 bucks, you get a stereo pair. That's gonna be hard to beat. What else can I say about it? It does feel pretty durable. It's waterproof, it floats, it has this handy little dongle here, and charges via USB-C. I think this will be a very popular speaker, and ultimately I'm a pretty big fan of Soundcore because I think they've got good support. So yeah, I'm optimistic about this one. In my experience, I'm quite impressed with it. There are 2 other speakers that I want to quickly touch on that I know are quite popular. So this is the Anker Soundcore Select 2S, as well as the original Soundcore 2. These speakers are quite cheap. I think this is around 40 to 30 bucks, and this one's similar price. This one's much newer, it just came out. And I can't recommend the 2. It does have USB-C, and it's 12 watts, but it just doesn't sound particularly good. It's a little tinny, and yeah, I'm just not an overall fan, especially relative to the Select 2S. This one, it's waterproof, charges USB-C, it uses the Anker Soundcore app, so then you can have a full EQ, you can make a stereo pair, and this is 20 watts. It sounds pretty good, especially considering its price. It can't hold a candle to any of these speakers like the Flip 6 or the Beats Pill, but at its price, I'm pretty impressed, and yeah, it's Soundcore, so you're gonna have some decent product support if you need it. The other thing I'll say, and you probably noticed this, I really don't recommend buying from unknown or like cheapo depot brands, if you will. Those just, I worry that they're not gonna have product support or be around for you if you have any problems. So you might see some really kind of compelling speakers out there that look great on paper. I just worry. So they don't get my stamp of approval. If you want to, give them a try and leave them a comment. Let me know how they go, but I recommend buying from reputable brands. All right, enough of this. Let's go on to the next one. The next category of speakers I want to talk about is probably the most popular category, and that's this like premium, good sounding, still compact category. So we have the Beats Pill, we have the Marshall Emberton II, we have the JBL Flip 6, we have the WONDERBOOM 4, as well as the Bose Soundlink Flex. These are all excellent speakers, and I'm not going to be able to say like definitely don't get one over the other. They just kind of all have their own pros and cons and trade-offs. So yeah, let's get into it. Let's talk about the Marshall Emberton II. This speaker is widely popular, and I can see why. First, it's aesthetics, right? It looks like an old school amplifier, and it's built really well. I think it's a very handsome speaker in general. This is real metal grille, and it's wrapped in this kind of false leather silicone wrap that also just feels really durable. And it has a really nice intuitive control mechanism where it's this little toggle where you up and down is for volume up and down, and then left and right is for forward and backward on a song, and you push it in to play pause. Plus, it has an actual battery meter over here, which again is very appreciated, and actually none of these other speakers have that, so I'm a fan of that. And then the thing that matters most for many of these speakers is the sound quality. And I'm happy to report the speaker does sound excellent. It has two drivers, one on the front, one on the back. They're both 10 watts, and it sounds really, really good, really, really clear. It doesn't have like thumping bass, unlike some of the other ones. Hello there, Beats. But it is quite neutral and quite accurate, at least for a Bluetooth speaker. So I've got respect for it there. One of the drawbacks, though, of the speaker is also one of the pros, which is the layout of its speakers. Because it has a speaker on the front and a speaker on the back, it means if you put it up against a wall, you're gonna have one side of it just shooting into the wall and causing all sorts of weird reflections, and it's gonna sound kind of funky. So you gotta ask yourself, where are you gonna use this thing? If you're gonna put it in the middle of a room, heck yeah, it's gonna sound great. If you're gonna put it up against a wall, I might have some reservations. Another kind of drawback on the speaker is the mobile app. Unfortunately, the app is just not super fully featured. It does two things. One, it allows you to create a stereo pair. So if you have another one, you can do that. And then two, it allows you to toggle between 3 different like EQ modes, which I'm frustrated by because I really wish there was like a full band EQ in there where you could manually adjust the different frequencies. No such thing. And for a speaker that costs around $140 or so, it does sometimes go on sale, but that's still just a lot of money. And I'm frustrated that it doesn't have all the functionality you'd expect. All things considered, I really like the speaker. The last note I have on it is about battery life. They claim 30 hours. And from my experience, I think you'd be lucky to get half that. I've seen other people report similar things too. 15 hours is still great, but it's not 30, and I'm a little bit frustrated that they're so kind of inaccurate about that. But say la vie, it's a great speaker, and I can understand why people get it. That being said, there's a few other options that I think I might like more, so let's talk about those. One of the speakers that surprised me by how much I like it is the Bose Soundlink Flex. The Gen 2 specifically. The Gen 2 has an updated control panel on the top, as well as an updated version of Bluetooth, which I think should allow it to have a little bit better connectivity. But apart from that, I think they're very similar. And what I like about it is, A, it's aesthetic. It's just super minimalist. It comes in a few different colors, and it would look at home on a bookshelf in your house rather than some of these other speakers that look like they definitely belong out on the beach or volleyball court. So I like it for that. And then I also like it for its sound profile. It's quite neutral out of the box, but in the Bose app, it has a very basic 3-band EQ that allows you to like up the bass and make it kind of have a little bit more power. And after you do that, I think it sounds phenomenal, especially for its size and weight. And the other thing I like about it is it's quite versatile. You can set it down on its little feet on the bottom, or you can put it on its back. And it has this thing called Position IQ, which basically means when it detects on its back, it ups the treble a little bit to make it kind of fill the room better. It's a bit of a gimmick, but ultimately I think it just sounds really, really good. It also has a microphone, which makes it a bit unique. So you can use it for like voice calls or whatnot. It also floats, it's waterproof, has USB-C, And overall, it's just a really kind of compelling option. The only downside here is for something that you think you might use around your house, you might like to see an aux in, doesn't have that. It really only has Bluetooth. But I'm a big fan of the speaker, and I think from a sound perspective, I prefer it over the Marshall just because it's more tunable in the EQ, and I think it sounds pretty darn excellent. So props to Bose for this one. Back in 2012, Beats released their very first pill. And now many years later, they've come up with the latest 2024 pill. And I was so excited to test it. And I'm relatively disappointed. And it's not because it's a bad sounding speaker. When I first listened to it under like normal circumstances at like 30–40% volume, I was overall pretty impressed. The bass on it is really amazing given its size, and I was excited. So I turned it up a little bit more. And as I turned it up, the highs just got a little bit shrill for me. The bass kind of felt unbalanced. So I was like, okay, I should make some adjustments in the EQ and we'll sort that all out. So what did I do? I went in the App Store, I downloaded the Beats Pill app by Apple. I tried to connect, no good, didn't connect. So I was confused, I did some research and I realized that, okay, this one isn't compatible with that app. That app was last updated 5 years ago, fine. In order to do any adjustments, you've got to go into Bluetooth settings, find the device, tap the eye, and away you go. So I go in there, and guess what? There's still no EQ. This just doesn't have an EQ. And for a $150 speaker, that blows my mind, especially one that's made by Beats, which is owned by Apple, one of the world's most valuable companies. You would expect them to just be crushing it. And sadly, they're not. So I'm disappointed there. And then the other parts of the speaker that, I don't know, I'm impressed by on some hand and frustrated by on others. It has a USB-C input, which is normal, but that does support reverse charging, which is cool. And then it also weirdly supports USB audio input. So you can actually use this as like a desktop computer speaker. And I actually think for that use case, it's kind of compelling. It's like a little sound bar that sits below your monitor that has surprisingly good bass. And it's got USB input, so digital input. So that's cool, I like that. It also does have a microphone, so you can use it to trigger your voice assistant. So overall, I want to like it. You can also do a stereo pair with it, which is cool. And then it like definitely outshines like HomePod minis. It's like overall a good sound if you like its sound profile and you can kind of put up with its shrill highs and its kind of unbalanced bass. If you don't like its sound profile, you're just out of luck. And with that, I can't really recommend it, but go listen to one for yourself, see if you like it. If you do, it's a decently compelling option. A speaker that's kind of in a category of its own here is the Ultimate Ears WONDERBOOM 4. I say it's in its own category because it's pretty compact and it's almost in like the Clip 5 category, but it also is like $100 or maybe sometimes it goes on sale for a bit less. So it's in a bit of this no man's land, but honestly, I really like it. It's really palmable, really compact. I kind of want to toss it. And it sounds just really good. It has multiple speakers in here, so it has kind of this 360-degree sound, which makes it really smart for like the beach setting. It doesn't have an app or an EQ, but it does have some different modes you can adjust on the bottom of it. So it has like a podcast mode for focusing on vocals, as well as another mode for outdoor use that I think cuts the bass and then ups the treble. It has a stated 14-hour battery life, which again, you're not gonna get that, but you should get a full day out of it at like reasonable volumes. It charges with USB-C, it's 8.5 watts, it gets pretty loud, and yes, you can do a stereo pair with it as well. So ultimately, I really like the speaker. It's a little pricey, but if you're looking for something that's kind of compact but sounds good, this is definitely a solid option. If I had to recommend one speaker on this table that I think would make the most sense for the most people, it would probably be the JBL Flip 6. This speaker is just a great package. It sounds great, it gets loud, it has pretty solid bass, it has solid battery life, and the price is right. I think it starts around $100, but then it often goes on sale. It comes in a few different colors. And yeah, I'm a really big fan. Its bass is there and quite prominent, but it's not overwhelming. It does connect to the JBL portable app, so it means you have a full EQ. You can also pair it to another one to get stereo sound. It's got 12 hours battery life. You're probably gonna get around 9 out of it or something, but still definitely good enough for a day at the beach. And it is just a really solid all-around package. JBL makes quality products. They're known kind of in the space to be one of the best. And the Flip 6, I think, is one of the best speakers that they make. If you do want more, there's another option. So let's talk about that. The bigger brother to the Flip 6 is the JBL Charge 5. This has a 30-watt driver and a 10-watt tweeter. It definitely just gets way louder, and it has more pronounced bass. I think the Flip 6 has better like mids and is just a little bit better for clarity and overall kind of sound quality, but this doesn't mean this is a bad speaker. I still think it sounds great, and it can make a lot of sense if you want to have something that's just like more casual. You bring to the beach, you turn it up. It has a longer battery life as well. It's stated at 20 hours, and it can reverse charge other devices, so another nice handy feature. Again, it's waterproof. It connects to the JBL app. It has the equalizer. You can make a stereo pair, all those good things. So between the Flip 6 and the Charge 5, I don't think you can go wrong either way. It just depends. Do you want slightly higher sound quality and more portability, or do you want something that's a little bit bigger and heavier that has better bass? Either way, great options. Now we're going to talk about boomboxes, and the first one we're going to touch on is the Soundcore Boom 2. This costs about 130 bucks, and sometimes it goes on sale for less. And for that money, you get a lot of speaker. It's 80 watts. It has one big woofer in the middle and then two little tweeters on either side. It can charge other devices. It floats. It's waterproof. You can make it a stereo pair if you buy another one. And then it does have the full equalizer in the Soundcore app. And from a sound quality perspective, it's pretty good. It's like respectable. You know, it's not the most hi-fi system ever. It's not gonna knock this Bose off its throne, but for a casual speaker that you bring to the beach and you just kind of enjoy, I think this is a really solid option. It also has a mic, so for whatever reason you wanna take some calls from the beach, you can. All things considered, yeah, I think this is a great option if you're looking for something that's cheap, loud, and can last all day. You can't really go wrong with this. If you're like Jasper, that thing sounds great, but you know what? I want more. I want to be an absolute menace when I'm outside. Then you have a few options. Soundcore also makes a Boom 2 Plus that I think's 140 watts, and I think it costs around $250 or so, but definitely goes on sale sometimes. And that thing I've also heard sounds great. People seem to absolutely love it. I haven't personally tried it, but I'm pretty sure based on my experience with other Soundcore products, it's going to be a pretty solid value for money option. So that's one thing to consider. And then if you want to go even more extreme, you have the JBL Boombox 3. This thing costs $500 and is an absolute beast. It has 180 watts. It's got one full subwoofer, two drivers, and two tweeters, and it weighs 16 pounds. So you definitely have to pay to play here because you're going to be lugging this thing out to the beach, and it's not that fun to carry. But you do get rewarded for that weight. It does sound pretty darn phenomenal. Like, I'm genuinely impressed at how good this thing sounds. Like, it's not just really loud, it doesn't just have really impressive bass, which yes, both those things are true, but it actually just like sounds genuinely good. And of course, it does connect to the JBL app, so then you can use the equalizer to tune it to your preferences as well. And if you want to buy another one for another $500, so if you $1,000 in, then you can get a stereo pair, and that will work as well. So ultimately, I'm just glad that JBL made this thing. It is an impressive feat of engineering, and if nothing else, it's like a really amusing speaker. And yeah, if you really want a loud system to go for like outside parties or something like that, this is definitely the speaker for you. Oh yeah, and it's waterproof, and it can charge other devices. Like, it's basically one of these mini JBL speakers, just like turned up to 11. So definitely a solid option. So we've covered some boomboxes that are clearly outdoor oriented, and there's two speakers that I want to touch on before we close this out that I think are really solid options for like inside oriented that are versatile enough to be taken outside occasionally. The first one is the Bose Soundlink Max. This is a very simple speaker. It doesn't have any Wi-Fi or AirPlay or anything fancy like that. It is literally a Bluetooth speaker that also happens to have a 3.5mm aux in, and then you can connect to it via the Bose app, and it has a 3-band equalizer. There's not much to it. But the good news is, at what it does do, it does really well. I think it sounds great out of the box, and it is tunable, and it is just a very simple, very elegant speaker that I think would look at home on any sort of shelf in your bedroom, as well as in the backyard with a barbecue. And yeah, if it gets rained on or gets dropped, it will survive. It's definitely not cheap. You know, it retails for $400. It does go on sale sometimes to around $300, but it's probably gonna last a long time. It's made by a reputable company, and yeah, I've got a decent amount of respect for this one. So good work, Bose. Last but not least is the Sonos Move 2. We talked about how kind of elegant and simple the Bose Soundlink Max was. Well, the Sonos Move 2 is kind of complex and sophisticated. And I say that because first, it has Wi-Fi, so that means it has AirPlay 2, it has Spotify Connect, it has Tidal Connect, you can use it with the Sonos app. So that in one area is quite impressive and very sophisticated. And then it also has microphones built into it, and it has this true play technology where it will listen to itself and make sure that it's actually sounding as expected and will adjust itself according to the environment that it's in. That's another pretty cool feature. And if you're in the Sonos ecosystem, I think this can make perfect sense for you. You can move it around your house. Yes, it's got a basic waterproof as well. And ultimately, it's just a good sounding speaker. It's stereo, not mono like some of the earlier Sonoses. And it's kind of similar to the Era 100 Sonos speaker in terms of like sound quality. It's not cheap at around $450 or so. So like it's a lot of money for a wireless speaker, but I think it makes sense for those Sonos users that are looking for something that's a little bit more flexible than their traditional speakers. Okay, that was a lot of speakers, potentially too many speakers. I just couldn't help myself when I was picking speakers for this video. I just kept on adding one more, and then eventually I landed here. But hopefully you found this helpful. If you have any constructive feedback, please leave it in the comments below. I'm always open ears to hearing how I can do things better. Or if you have any questions about any of these, feel free, leave a question. I'll do my best to respond when I can. And yeah, like I said, any support, if you think I did a good job, a like, a comment, a subscription, all of that goes a really long way. All right, I'll see you on the next one.